Hey everyone, welcome to the build guide for the Rogue Assassin. So, always looked forward to this one. I wanted this for a while, so hopefully this helps out anyone who needs it. Okay, so we'll go over AOE first and then single target second. Okay, so for the build, right, so character sheet, we'll go over the gear first. So this is pretty much I run all the time. I do switch it up. Sometimes if I'm in Sharandar, I will go over to the Forest Guardian's Raid helmet, just for the extra damage, but anything else, right, this is pretty much what I'm running. So Gristril's Horns, I do run Azures for most of it. I have Darks sometimes just because I haven't sold them, and obviously with the new enchantment coming up, it doesn't really matter. All right, so Gristril, Ribcage, with Bark Shield, extra defense, saves your life, especially in hardcore boss. I have been running Forest Guardian Raid Bracers for the accuracy, just because my stats are capped everywhere else. But if you're not capped in power, then you can use the Risk Guards of Precipitation, right, from hardcore boss to main bosses. Right, these ones are probably best in slot for most builds, but my power is already 90% without them, so I run the accuracy ones. I do run the Spike Defender Ram Braces. Obviously helps with damage resistance, and then you get the damage bonus when you get hit, right? But I have been testing these out, and definitely notice the damage same level or a little bit more, so it's good to go. Weapons, Mastercraft weapons for most content, AoE. If you have Lionheart, awesome. Mirage, obviously, as well. But the Mastercrafts, especially if everyone has them, they're best in slot. For weapon enchantment, Lightning for AoE. Obviously, this will be gone soon, but right now, Lightning enchantment. And then for all my offense are Assassin's enchantments. And then defense are awareness, right? Let's see here. The Azure for that one, and then most of the other ones are tactical. Okay. For artifact weapon modification, I do have Duelist Flurry, increase the damage done. I do this one just because it has the bleed as well, right? So the bleed will do 10% more damage as well as the damage itself. You can, if you wanted to use Gloaming Cut, this is perfectly fine as well. It's another option, depending on what you want to do. For the offhand modifications, I have Forte. I just haven't got to recharge speed yet. With just haven't purchased or got the cubes enough, but I would say recharge speed is a little bit better. Hopefully take another second off of your encounter timers, but Forte is good, AP gain good, crit severity as well, right? So this one is kind of up to you, but I think the best ones are, what I would choose would be recharge speed, Forte, AP gain, and crit severity, one of those ones. And then for enhancement, I have accuracy just because all my other stats are capped. Obviously, you can do power, crit strike, crit severity, or combat advantage. It all depends what you're missing, right? So like, I choose accuracy, and look at that, 2,500, or I almost got perfect. So try to get this as high as possible, whichever one you choose. All right. For boots, Wasteland Wanderers with the 5% combat advantage. If you're close, we're close to every target that we hit. So that 5% is very nice. You can use the Forest Guardian Raid, the Sharandar ones, the other ones that you get from the store. This one will give you 7,500 combat advantage, but the way my stats are is it's overkill. I'll be overcapped, and so it'd be pointless to do. Where the 5% is more beneficial for my build. So if you need a lot more combat advantage, you can excuse me, you can definitely use these ones. If you need power, right, you can get these ones as well from Avernus, or the fairy steps from mini bosses and hardcore boss. But I obviously rushed Iron Leggings for the damage, but no one most people don't really run this just because of the decreased healing aspect, especially in hardcore boss. Not really recommended. So that's why I use Waste and Wanderers. For my modifications, it all depends on what you need, right? So I have Crit Strike, Accuracy, Crit Strike, and Accuracy. These ones will depend on what you need, right? So get your 4 main stats, so Power, Combat Advantage, Crit Strike, and Crit Severity, pretty much in that order of importance. So if you need Power armor kit, that's perfectly fine. Just choose the ones that you actually need. Okay, I need 2 Crit Strike just because of when I got the Band of Air. So I had to switch them, but I'm using Accuracy just because all the other 4 stats are capped already. For AoE, I usually use Envenom just because of the AP gain and the stun. The stun is nice to stun the mobs, especially in harder content. And then you get the extra hit as well with the storytellers. And then the AP gain, so you get your daily up just as fast. I have Darkened and Flayed. Frozen, obviously, perfectly fine. It doesn't really matter, right? And then Demogorgon is pretty much for single target. I switch over for that one for the single target setup. But it all depends what you guys. You don't have the storytellers, that's perfectly fine. Just as long as the ones that benefit you, right? Like Envenom Knives would be a good one, right? AOE debuff. Awesome. There's the recharge one, the Neverwinter, whatever it's called. That's a pretty decent one as well. But for AoE, you just want as many targets hit as possible, right? So the knives is a good choice if you don't have storytellers, or just if you're lazy and don't want to switch, just put if you have demo, then do that as well. I have the demo set. That's what I'm running. Faye is definitely up there as well. It's pretty much the same. For damage output wise, the item level obviously with demo is nice. Obviously increases the overall damage as well. But Faye is awesome as well. If you can't get demo, Faye is dirt cheap and very easy to upgrade as well. All right. And then for modifications for my right hand side are all combat advantage. If you're max combat advantage, you can do awareness just for the extra defense, but it's up to you. For rings, the Red Eyes Glare and Band of Air is what I'm running now. Before I had Band of Air, I had the Queen Opal, Golden Opal ring for the melee power, do 3% more damage. I have been playing around with switching up the Red Eyes Glare with the Queen's Opal just to compare. Honestly, I think it's roughly the same, and the 5% power and 2.5% accuracy are very beneficial. So it's up to you. And obviously with what it gives, right? With Queen's Opal gives crit strike and combat advantage, where Red Eyes Glare gives just crit severity. If you don't have any of these, you can use you can buy rings. I forget what they're called, but they do 3% increase in counter damage. I think they're from Tom, but you can buy them in the auction house for very cheap. I do forget what they're called though. And then you can get if you are running boss, you can get the ring that has melee powers do 3% more damage. It's just the purple one, the +3 is perfectly fine as well. And then these ones are situational for what you need, right? Like if you the final boss in boss, you would something like this if you wanted to. But these are the 2 I use. If you don't have them, any rings that give encounter damage are melee damage, right? Those 2 bonuses are very beneficial as well. The shirt, I just got this one from the 3rd mini boss and hardcore boss, but you can just do regular boss, the store from Granny. You get the same actual bonus, right? The encounter reprieve with your timers go down 1 second. Every 10% chance to reduce your encounter power cooldown, right? So you can get this from Sharandar. As well, if you can't get this, you can use what's it called? These things. the Seals of the Wild or Seals of the Fallen and just get the shirt from the Seal store. That's perfectly fine as well. And then pants, just running these ones, these are from Granny in Sharandar 3, but from the Seal store as well. Whatever you need to start right is perfectly fine. This one is nice just because the AP gain as well, right? You get this in the Seal store as well, the same bonus, so it's all good. For stats, I choose strength and dexterity. I have tried, these are the ones I just prefer. Strength, obviously, for the physical damage boost. I use dexterity. The crit severity is what is nice. I don't really need it, but it's the movement speed. I tried out with strength and charisma. That's another good option, but the movement speed really have bothered me. So I switched back to strength, dexterity. So you can do strength, dexterity, strength, charisma, dexterity, charisma, whatever you prefer. Test it out and see what's best for you. Honestly, it's not too much of a big deal, but I prefer the strength for overall damage and then dexterity for the movement speed. If you do charisma, you reduce your cooldown timers by 1 second, which is kind of nice. But you have the shirt as well, right? Which is definitely beneficial. And then for stats, I'm unbuffed, right? So power, when I actually use my Forges box, if it actually kicks in, it'll be at 90%. Combat advantage, crit strike, crit severity. They're a little lower, right? But it's the fact that I'm unbuffed, I don't have potions on, and I get 10% from here for crit strike, and I get 10% crit strike, crit severity from here as well. So when I am buffed, these are the ones I use. Flask of potency, I use rank 1 because I can make them. You can just buy the max ranks as well. I use the Invocation Blessing just because it's added benefit. I use Squash Soup. You can use Watermelon Sorbet if you need the extra power and accuracy. And then I use Wildstorm Elixir as well. I've been trying to actually use the Sunlord's Gift. This one gives additional accuracy and combat advantage, but it's kind of bugged. I can't actually buy anything right now. So even though I have enough Ardent coins. So that's the other one I would choose. So when I put those buffs on, right, power, pretty much 90%, combat advantage at 80, but this will kind of go, this is at 85, right, because of the boots. And then I'll show you, and then for the mount as well, right, I get an extra 2,500 combat advantage when I'm controlling someone, right, and that's through, that helps out a lot as well. So 72%, this is capped right in combat with the Gristra Horns and Ribcage. And the crit severity is easily capped right with the Ribcage as well. So these 4, power, combat advantage, crit strike, crit severity, you want capped at 90% in combat. And then accuracy you want as high as you can, right? Just for the added damage. But it's the last one in the order, right? It gives the least amount of damage per percent in. So you kind of want to do this at the end. For powers, at Will's Duelist Flurry, this applies the bleed, right, which is very nice for overtime effect. It kind of sucks during the final boss and boss, but it's all good. And then Gloaming Cut, right? So this one increases your stealth regeneration, which is kind of nice. And it does a lot of damage. It's slow, but it does a lot of damage. And then obviously based on the missing health of the target, it does more damage, right? And then you can get your stealth up, and then you can go from there. AOE, this is pretty much very simple. Blade Flurry, Path of Blades, and Smoke Bomb. I'll kind of go over the setup as well of how I run my how I use the encounters in just a little bit. Dailies, Whirlwind of Blades for AOE, and then Shocking Execution for single target. For class features, I like Invisible Infiltrator because I can actually use Blade Flurry 3 times in my rotation based on if I have my daily up, and 2 of them will be under stealth. I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. If you don't want to use this one, you can definitely use the movement speed and 2.5% crit strike. That's definitely a good option. but my crit strike's already capped, and then this one I can actually do more damage with. And then this one is I would definitely choose Oppressive Darkness when you're combat advantage, right, which you should always be in. If you're behind them or into stealth, you do additional 20 magnitude damage to the target, right? So you're constantly doing this. So this adds up a lot. Feats, Toxic Blades applies the dot over time, more DPS. Stealth, increase the stealth regeneration a lot faster. That's what you want, right? Because you're in stealth more, you do more damage. This one, Duelist Expertise, right? I chose this one just because it adds up, right, with the overall damage over time, right, in combat. And then you kind of do more with more setup. If you want doing like more of a with ads and a boss, this one's kind of nice, the Skullcracker, because it dazes them. This one's kind of good in hardcore boss because it dazes the enemies, and then it gives you a couple second leeway right before they actually start attacking you again, and it applies a debuff on the boss or the enemy. Back alley tactics, you deal 10% more damage based on how few action points you have, right? Because this kind of makes sense just because you want use your daily, right? And you want to have no action points right after, right? So then you're kind of doing more damage overall, and then use your daily for a burst of damage, and then you're good to go. And then Shadow's Flurry, you kind of create a shadow of yourself, right? And then they do your at will. So it's a lot more damage added in. Boons, literally all damage ones, right, that you want. And then health, awareness, and defense, and movement speed. It's pretty much the ones you can get, right? That's what you want. For tier 5s, I've added 1% forte. The forte is power, combat advantage, and defect severity, right? So it's kind of nice with the 2, right, if you want power and combat advantage. And then I have increased recharge speed by 1% per rank. You can do AP gain. That's definitely a good option as well. For the Master Boons, Bloodlust, I've heard that the decreased target's defense by 1% is kind of bugged, but it doesn't really matter. It's the second one that really matters, right? Do an additional attack equal to 120 magnitude damage plus 10 magnitude per rank, right, on a counter use. So on chance of encounter use. So that adds up a lot of damage over time. If you want to try something different for AoE, right, this one's good as well. Chance on kill to increase the fallings for 10 seconds, right? So it's like 6% per each one, right? So that kind of helps out a lot with your stats. And since we do a ton of AoE hits, this could be and kill and a lot of stuff. This one would be my second choice for AoE setup. Companions, Mystagogue, definitely one of the best in slots for AoE setup as of right now. It all depends on what you have, right? But it's kind of Mystagogue number 1 is right now. For the equipment, I have Crit Strike Combat Advantage for all 3. These are the Sharandar companion equipment, but it all depends on what you need. The Crit Severity Combat Advantage ones are good as well. I have these 3, or combination, or Crit Strike, Crit Severity. It all depends on what you need, honestly. And then I have Indominos for more damage with the companion. I'm running Perfect Vision for the increased accuracy, just because all the other stats are capped. But if you want acute senses, potency for increased power, potent precision for crit severity, and precision. Those are the ones you kind of want to run. So precision, potent precision, potency, acute senses are pretty much what you should run until your stats are capped, and then you can use perfect vision, right, to increase percent accuracy. Combat bonuses, this all depends on your stats. For some of them, I run in Driz for the increased crit strike and crit chance. For defense, this is probably best in slot. There's no one really else that does this, is the Phase Fighter. I use Barbarian Shaman for the combat advantage power, and Black Ice for the universal, 7.5% critical chance. And then utility, I think this one's the best one you can put in, is the Alchemist Discipline. It's actually pretty cheap now. so it's a good one to get with the crit chance and combat advantage. There's other ones you can get. You have a lot of choices, right? You can use Alpha Company for power. I've tried the this one here, increase your outgoing damage by 7.5%. Obviously, it's diminishing returns of how much damage you put out, and I've kind of noticed it doesn't do as much as I want it, so I kind of use Barbarian Shaman for the combat advantage power, but the Neverwinter's Knight is definitely a good option as well. Alright, for AoE, for the power, right, Mount Power, you can use Pegasus is a good one. The Divine Intervention, the Wings, right, is a great one. Anything that does damage to a lot of targets is what you want, right? So Pegasus, obviously a great choice. It buffs the group as well. The Wings, the Cauldron is very good, does decent damage, and buffs you as well, right? But Pegasus is pretty much number one. I like the Wings and Hardcore Boss because it pushes the enemies away. Equip powers. You can use Dominant Force, a good one, but Precision is a good one too with Crit Strike, Crit Severity, Opportunistic, combat advantage. Let's see here, but I pretty much run Rapid Accuracy. That's another good one to get accuracy up. But right now I'm using Ferocious Predator for the power and crit severity. If I wanted to make sure I can do this right, for the over just power's at 90%. The crit severity is still above 80, which the ribcage will get above to 90% during combat. Stable for my collars, I'll go with that first. The crit severity one for the Wayfaring Barb collar. I have the Sturdy Crescent collar for Encounter. This one I got during the Echoes of Prophecy, but it was epic before this. Encounter powers do 4% more damage. Movement speed one, I think is fairly good too. One, obviously you get to the mobs faster, and two, you can get away from the mobs faster. So movement speed definitely helps with defense. And these ones, it doesn't really matter. Stamina regen is nice, and I just have Astral Diamonds. But if you're struggling with you're capping your stats, you can take off some colors, right? You can take off this one and this one. So to get your stats buffed, right? I can do this because my stats are capped. If they weren't capped, I would not run certain colors, okay? And then it all depends on, it doesn't matter what mounts you have, right? But these are the bonuses that I have. Assassin's Covenant for the increased offense stats. I have Artificer's Persuasion. This one's very nice because it takes 2 seconds off your cooldowns of your encounters, or everything, right? So sometimes it'll still save your life sometimes when you actually use your artifact, and then you can actually use your encounters to kill stuff before they kill you. Combat Maneuver, when you actually control an enemy, right, you gain combat advantage. This one's really good for single target, just because of Bilethorn as well. Warlord's Inspiration for the increased companion damage, and Gladius Guile, move faster, and stamina regen when you're rolling around as well. But if you don't want to, any combination, you can use 2 assassins, you can use 2 warlords, 2 gladiators, whatever you really want. This is what I prefer. It's all personal preference. For insignias, I have Dominance, which gives power forte. I have skill for the enlightened for critical strike and combat advantage. Brutality, some brutality, mostly dominance. It's mostly dominance and skill for the power, and forte for these ones as well, because it increases power and increases combat advantage. But these ones, honestly, you can do many combinations to cap your stats. It all depends on what you want to choose. If you don't have mythics, that's perfectly fine, right? But just what you want is just capping your stats, your power, combat advantage, crit strike, crit severity, whatever it takes to get those capped. All right, so that's the setup for AOE. So when I'm actually, let's back out here. So for my, there's 2 rotations that I'll do. Okay, it all depends if I have my daily up. Okay, so the first one, if you don't have your daily up, right? So you come in, so the mobs are over there, right? You do passive blades, You come in, you can stealth, right? Blade Flurry. I would Smoke Bomb, so you're back into combat advantage, right? And then you can actually Blade Flurry again if you want to kill things right away. That's pretty much the AoE setup. Most of the time, I won't use my Blade Flurry twice because the cooldown is slower than your Stealth regen, right? Because Stealth regen 6 seconds, and then your Blade Flurry cooldown is 12 seconds. So what you can do is you can Path the Blades, come in, stealth, right, to protect yourself in combat advantage, or a Smoke Bomb, sorry, go into stealth like this, and then just kind of move around, go combat advantage like this. Use your Gloaming Cut to increase your stealth, and then you're back. You're already back into stealth, right? So you won't do as much damage at that initial time, but you'll do more damage over time if you keep your Blade Flurry off cooldown, because then it's less time. And then with Gloaming Cut, it's actually less than 6 seconds cooldown, right? So you pretty much every like 5 seconds, you're in stealth, right? And then you can use Blade Flurry as you're going. Okay, so Path the Blades, obviously, very nice. AoE setup, right? Especially if they're following you or chasing you, you can just move around and then actually hit them. Smoke Bomb gives combat advantage and actually dazes them, so it actually protects you. And then this is your big encounter, right? For Blade Flurry. If I have my daily up, I can use Blade Flurry 3 times in certain situations, or at least twice under stealth. And oh yeah, so especially with like the decreased encounter time with Reapers, it's nice to have Blade Flurry always up. So you just use it under stealth. So if I have my daily up, I'll use the same setup, right? Path the Blades to come in here, stealth, right? Blade Flurry, and then I'll use my daily, and then my stealth meter already comes back up. I can use Blade Flurry again, smoke, I'm in combat advantage again, and then Blade Flurry as well. So pretty much all 3 of them are under combat advantage, where 2 of them under stealth. So you're doing a ton of damage at that very time. So that's like the AOE rotation, and then you can just throw in your artifact whenever you want, right? And stuff like this. For your mount power, it all depends on what you want. So I have Pegasus on, and what you want to do for this one is under stealth, it'll actually do more damage, right? So I'll come in, Path the Blades, stealth, I'll use Pegasus, right? And then Blade Flurry under stealth as well. So then, and then Smoke Bomb, and then you can use Blade Flurry again. So it just all depends on what the situation is. Sometimes I'll actually use stealth for Path the Blades. It actually does more, it hits twice as fast, but not, it all depends. It's situational, but your Blade Flurry would do the most damage. Okay, so that's cooling down. I can switch over to single target in a second. That's kind of like the AoE setup. And then, as you can see, using Blade Flurry pretty much 3 times if you have your daily up, plus your daily and Pegasus up, you're doing a ton of damage to a lot of mobs. So it's good to go. Alright, let's switch over to single target. So everything's the same. I do put the precipitation braces back on because my power is at max. It's just because of my companion setup. So I'll put these on to increase my stacks of power. So then actually my power will be maxed in combat. I'll get that extra 5% based on that. But everything else is the same except for Mirage weapons. They are pretty much best for single target, with the Mirages doing your at-wills. Same setup. I have for Duelist Flurry, if you want Gloaming Cut, you can. And then this one I have Crit Severity, but honestly I would choose Recharge Speed, AP Gain, Forte. Any one of those 4 are perfectly fine. And then I have Accuracy as well. But if you're struggling to get power, Crit Strike, Crit Severity, definitely choose, or Combat Advantage, right? You can definitely choose this for now. To help build up those stats, right? Because accuracy isn't the greatest for how much you invest into it until you're done, you're set up. And literally everything's the same except for I put Demogorgon's reach on for the debuff on the boss. You can use any debuff if you want. If you don't have Demogorgon, right? You can Blast Scepter, very nice. You can use Knives, right? There's all sorts of different choices you can choose from. I just have Demogorgon just because that's the set I'm running. If you have Fae, that's perfectly fine as well. And literally everything's the same setup for strength. If you want to do strength, charisma for this one for single target because you're not really moving that much in a boss fight, but I just can't handle the movement speed, so that's why I choose that. Powers, everything's the same except for my encounters, right? I have Lashing Blade, I have Wicked Reminder, and I have Assassinate, and I'll explain that in a second. Boons are the same. Companions are a little different. I put Bateri on for the 11% damage versus bosses. You can, and then all these are literally the same. I've been trying out the Neverwinter's Night as well. You can definitely do this one as well. I find, honestly, I don't know if it definitely does not give 7.5%, but it may give you more damage than having like Drizzt, for example, as well. It all depends on what you need. Okay. But Bateri definitely, for the 11% damage versus bosses, it definitely helps out a lot. Same thing with these ones. The Crit Strike combat advantage. I put the acute senses on just because of where my combat advantage is on the single target, right? Because I'm the companion of Bateri, gives overall damage, but I lose 3.5%, or a little bit over 3.5%, 3.75% combat advantage. So I have the boots that give 5%, right? And then I have the acute senses to give 7.5%, so pretty much capped as well. Mounts, exact same setup because just because of it's literally the same of what it is. And then, oh yes, I use Bilethorn for my weapon enchantment. Bark Shield, the same one. So Bilethorn single target is the damage over time to the boss, and it slows down the boss as well, which is obviously an added effect. This is obviously going to change in the new mod, but it's all good right now. Okay, so the rotation, I think that's everything I wanted to cover for this one. Yeah, everything's the exact same. So for the companion, I use the Jagged Dancing Blade. Very good single target damage. If you have Pseudo Dragon, it's number one. There's plenty of ones to choose from. I like Jagged Dancing Blade. It's literally dirt cheap. Pseudo Dragon's cheap anyways as well, but Dancing Blade, I feel like it won't get nerfed as much as Pseudo Dragon will. But that's why I choose the Jagged Dancing Blade. Very good single target damage. Okay, I just gotta remember the names of my Lashing Blade, Wicked Reminder, and Assassinate. So for single target, right, you're always literally, you want to be in combat advantage the entire time. And what you do is, it all depends. So if I have my my artifact up, right, I'll use my artifact, apply the debuff, right. As I'm applying the debuff, I'll get my single target going just because, with Duelist Flurry, just because I'm applying the bleed stacks. So let's get that damage over time going, right? Once that's going, then I'll switch over to Glooming Cut as I'm going, right? And then once the Demogorgon's going, I'll use Wicked Reminder first. Make sure you don't do it too fast because it's 2 hits, right? It goes hit 1, hit 2, and applies a debuff to the person. I'll go into Stealth. I'll use Lashing Blade, and I'll use Assassinate from behind. And then just keep getting my bleed stacks up with Duelist Flurry, and then Gloaming Cut as well. So now I got my daily up, and I got my artifact up as well, right? So if I was doing just no daily and artifact, Mount Power, so I would do Wicked Reminder, Stealth, Pegasus, Lashing Blade, Assassinate. If you want to do Pegasus before everything, you definitely can. I find it does more damage under Stealth, but if you wanted to do it first, and then get the debuff on the boss, and then use your series of attacks, right, and you're good to go. But now that I have my daily up, and with sorry if I can do this here, and with Oppressive Darkness, Invisible Infiltrator, I can do the same setup I did with AOE, right? So I'll apply demo, I'll go into stealth. I'll use Pegasus if I had it, Wicked Reminder, my daily, stealth again, Lashing Blade, and Assassinate. See how you can use 2 encounters under stealth? And I would choose Wicked Reminder and Lashing Blade under stealth in that setup too. If you want, you can. If you don't want to use your stealth for Lashing Blade, you can use it on the first one. I would use it on Wicked Reminder first. So I would just do stealth, Wicked Reminder, Lashing Blade, and then Assassinate. And then you just throw in your Pegasus or your Mount Power and artifacts whenever you can. I use Pegasus just because it helps the entire group, right? Increases the damage. It still does damage to the boss, but it increases damage allies with 15% forte. Increases damage by everyone, right? DPS, all the DPS by 15%, increases outgoing healing and damage resistance to the tank. So this one's very good setup for most of the time. Other ones you can choose from are Swarm, right? You can use the new one, Frozen Retribution, Tunnel Vision if you're a DPS junkie as well, T-Rex. Eclipse Lion is very good for like the final boss in hardcore boss, just because like during the hypo, right, you can just throw this on them, and then the damage of the overall group is decreased. But I use Pegasus for most options for my single target because it helps the group out and it does damage, and then the boss literally dies faster. If you really want to get you pad your stats, then you would use Tunnel Vision. I think that's everything. Obviously, it's pretty in-depth, and I try to explain the reasoning behind what I do. If you have any questions, just let me know. And yeah, hope this works out for everyone. Thank you.